Hey, it's Tuesday.
That's the second time. That's the second time we've done that. This time you did not miss the best half hour of
all
pulling
me,
commentary you've ever seen.
all me. I mean, nothing we said in the first 5 minutes there meant anything. So we're talking about the fact that we're about 60 some days away from pulling season here. It's Ron, Outlawed Live, Ron Stone, and Mike Idle at Bevier, Missouri, and we just kind of was going over our Easter weekends and how it went by too fast, and how the pulling season always goes by too fast, and how close the pulling season is. July 7th and 8th, Ravenna, Nebraska. Like Mike said, do the math. We're just a little over 2 months away. So crazy that it's upon us already. April's going to go by like a house of fire, and it was just February. I was thinking, wow, it's really close, and March just came and went really quickly.
Yeah.
And now it's scramble season. This is when all the pullers are calling their engine builders and saying, hey, is my stuff done? And they've got this big, long checklist. And they're trying to get everything done. If you're a puller and you're watching tonight, let us know what you have left to do on your honey-do list. That's what I always call them, as a honey-do list. Things to do to your tractor or your truck to have it ready for the first pull of the season in June.
And it's a good time to put in perspective just how much these guys put it into maximum gear, just so we can have some fun as fans and announcers and promoters out there, because we're getting ready to we're at the tail end of calving season. So, all these guys have agricultural backgrounds. With the tail end of calving season, we're knocking on the door of planting season. So these guys are probably thinking not only go see Sonny Leonard and the Blackburns or the Dino or Hearts or whoever else, but they're also, getting the planters and getting the sprayers and everything ready. So sometimes I feel busy. I'm glad I'm not in their shoes at this point. I know we still feel like we have a lot to do before we're ready, Ron, but man, they're busy. And can you imagine being one of those engine shops? Can you imagine being at the Sonny Leonard shop right now? How many motors? I've seen this on social media a lot lately. A lot of people are getting their stuff back. Busy's good, I guess, but all those builders and tuners are working their tails off right now too.
Hopefully, I think I've been told by some engine builders it's still an issue, the supply chain and getting parts, getting raw materials and things like that. Hopefully that's getting better. I mean, you would think with time it would eventually get better. Hopefully that's not a reason, or still not as big a reason, for guys not having their stuff ready for opening day, I should say, of pulling with the Outlaws, the 7th and 8th, opening weekend for the Outlaws. I was working on a pull for that weekend before, but the stars didn't align just right. So we're looking at possibly next year for possibly a big season opener in Oklahoma. So let that one settle a little bit out in west of, I won't name the town yet, but west of Oklahoma City. That's, I think, we're on track to have something out there in 2025. So that will be cool. So trying to get the schedule lined up still some stragglers out there haven't got their contracts in. Still one or two events that are unsure on a couple classes, but we're hoping here by the end of this week that we'll have a solid schedule out, and we won't be, hum-hauling around and saying, well, hang on, don't plan just yet, because we did have some things, some moving pieces still happening. So hopefully by the end of the week, we'll be good to go and set up on the schedule. So what's going on in your world, Mike? You've got some new stuff going on. I noticed you starting to do some.
Yeah, we're tinkering, we're playing, we're really diving in full-fledged into the world of social media and truck and tractor pulling right now, and we're going to launch a new series. Of course, oftentimes this boils back to the mad scientist himself and the brainchild, Mr. Jason Schultz, when you get these big ideas. But I'm glad to be a part of that. We're going to launch a new series on the Outlaw Facebook page called "When the Smoke Clears," and the whole idea is, I always felt like, being the west of the Mississippi pulling organization, this is cowboy country. This is outlaw country. We've got the outlaw sled. It's got the gunslinging 6-shooters on the side of it. And we wanted to come up with a way to highlight drivers. And I kind of thought, well, how can we tie all this just really unique style that we have out here? And I thought, well, this reminds me of the days in the Old West. when the smoke clears, who is left standing? Who are we looking at? So when the smoke clears is going to be a series where we're going to feature drivers on Facebook once a week, maybe more often. And it could eventually be something that maybe we debut right here on Outlawed Live, or kind of launch and show onto that. And I think that could be a really good springboard. But this last week, I came up with some questions. Kinsey behind the scenes at Beer Money Pulling, she put together all the graphics. I'm still pretty novice when it comes to creating neat looking graphics and whatnot. And we just kind of sent out a wide range. I'm trying to add every single outlaw puller on my Facebook. And one of the first ones, several people got back to me. One of the first ones sitting at the top of my inbox was Corey Schluter. And he drives a wild ride in the barn burner. And so Corey Schluter was your first When the Smoke Clears featured driver that we took a look at today, or took a look at this week. And it just kind of highlights, your inspiration behind pulling, what it means to you to be an outlaw, what some of your highlights were, what some advice you would give. The one that he listed that blew me away, there's one I have on there. I said, what's your most memorable pass? And he said he pulled 420 feet at the Nebraska State Fair in 2021. Would you have been announcing for the Outlaws at that time, Ron?
Okay, I thought that said Pawnee City when I read that.
Was it Pawnee? Okay, his first pull, I take that back. He might have said his first pull was at the Nebraska State Fair 15 years ago.
Yep.
And he said his biggest pass, he went 420 feet. Is that something you would have been able to witness?
I did not. I actually looked for that. I did announce there in 22. I didn't in 23, but I'm not sure where I was in 21. I was at another pool though. So I wasn't there. 22 that was the only time I was at Pawnee City. But hey, I just want to show you, Mike, if you could see this. I'm going to put this right on the corner of my computer screen here. If you could read that, it's an orange Post-it note that says "Go Live." So,
well, when you held it up, your green screen caught it, so it just showed your outlaw banner. Go live. I don't know, folks. For those of you out there, it's got to be like an in the vault, a behind the series that maybe you can subscribe to or something. Some of the best pulling conversation that I've ever been a part of. The best rodeo you have is when you ride the bull when no one's watching. Some of the best shows we have done is when we forget to hit the go live button. So we're set and loaded from now on.
Been guilty of that a few times here. So I need that little reminder. But hey, do you have any pictures we can bring up of this behind when the smoke clears that we can?
Yeah, let's see. I'm getting a little bit better. Well, here I might be able to. One thing I'm learning to do is screen sharing. So what better time to do that than right now? And we'll go over here. And I'm applying for a farming magazine subscription. And we'll go to Outlaw Truck and Tractor Pulling. And we'll just share my screen and see if we can get this to pop up. Right here. Here's our post. When the smoke clears, you're looking at an outlaw. Did that pop up on there? Yeah, we got that up there.
Can you maximize that by chance? Can you make it bigger so we can? I know I'm challenging you here.
So. Nope, I practiced this earlier today too. This is we can make this happen, Mr. Ron Stone.
Chuck Hobbs is joining us. Good evening from snowy Harmon, Illinois. Ew. It's April, Chuck. No more snow.
I was watching Platte City, Missouri. I see what I need to do. We need to switch over here to the Outlaw Show. I was watching Platte City, Missouri, and there was some questions I want to talk to you about that on outlawpulling.tv. Fans, you can go back to outlawpulling.tv at any point. $39.99 or $39.95 a month, I think it is. And you can rewatch anything from like the past 5 years. How's that look, Ron? Is that a little bit better? Maybe not.
A little bit better. It's still a little small. If I had a full screen of it, of course, I'm on the production side here, and the whole screen is smaller for me anyway. But anyway, he gives a little sort of a brief bio of Corey Schluter, his tractor, his career in pulling. Best first place he pulled, most memorable pull, his heroes in pulling. So pretty cool little series there. And if you did one of those a week, Mike, that'd be great. I mean, we could highlight it here on the show and give you a little more.
I think that's got some real traction. Once a week was something that we had tentatively looked to do, and I was kind of thinking about what's the best springboard for it. And there's no better place to do it than right here on Outlawed Live. So there's some cool things on here. It gives you his name, first hook, most memorable hook, wildest ride. How about this one, Ron? Warrensburg, Missouri, 2022. Does that one ring a bell? Did Corey?
Yeah,
he's taken some wild rides.
Yeah, he's taken more than just a couple. So I thought if he's saying that was a wild ride, then I've got to check it out. And I don't know why, but I was unable to get into my account at Outlaw Pulling TV. I wanted to get a little screenshot video, a screen capture video, and put it on here. And that's something I thought we could highlight when they put on their most memorable ride. If we have access to that video, we could show it on here. On the show on Tuesday night and show exactly what they were talking about. So if we can get that downloaded for next week, we'll show it. We won't just let it go. But
we'll make this happen. Mm-hmm.
Very cool. Kevin Davis watching tonight, saying nice to see you guys. Wish I could say the same, Kevin. Not being derogatory, just that we can't see your beautiful face on here.
Love to see you. Kevin's top notch. Kevin, he's one of those awesome guys that'll reach out to you ever so often and give you his 2 cents on things. And got to know Kevin, or got to meet Kevin at the banquet last year. And of course, great show they have out there in Wayne, Nebraska. And I think that's going to be one of the times. I was looking at some of the schedule that Kurt had sent out, and there's a handful of times where you and I are going to be on the mic side by side. And I think Wayne might be one of those where they kind of said, this is a 2-announcer kind of show. So looking forward to that. That'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it really had me hopping last year because we were doing the driver winter interviews under the grandstand, and I was running back and forth, and I'm not in the greatest shape these days. I can't run those steps and still keep my composure on the mic and not hear me breathing heavily from running up and down those steps. So yeah, two mics, 2 announcers would benefit that show. 2 tracks. It's really a busy show.
That show's gotten big. Their plans are just keep getting bigger. They've built a big new grandstand there. It's a good deal that they have out there. So,
well, hey, Mike, we have a guest on tonight. I told her we would talk to her for about 15 minutes or so.
Excellent.
Been a great sponsor with the Outlaws. Been a great sponsor of our Young Guns program. Great company. And let me introduce you to Kim Bacardi. Not to be confused with Bacardi rum.
Not the rum, not the spiced and unspiced rum. No free samples tonight.
We were hoping. Yeah. Kim, how are you?
Hi, good evening, guys. How are you?
Kim Bacardi, of course, representing Titan Tire. Great to see you, Kim. What's new in the world of Titan Tire?
Oh man, we've had a busy winter, launching bigger and badder ag tires. Had a great winter show season. We were out at Iowa and Kentucky with our custom flow grip 1400s, largest ag tire on the market, and it was busy. It was busy, and of course, obviously down in Louisville, you have to take in the pulls. So it was great to see some of our Outlaw family down there at the pulls.
So I've heard some things about. Of course, you guys are an awesome sponsor. You're always there saying, what do you want us to do? And that's a great sponsor to have that is willing to be there, be on site. And you guys are so helpful with everything and sponsoring the Outlaw Young Guns, which that program just exploded. Mm-hmm. I mean, other organizations took notice of our Young Guns, but they did.
As they should. That's Rockstar. All we ever hear is we need more youth in pulling. There's no youth in pulling. And I was like, look on our side of the river, guys. There is a lot of youth in pulling.
I think it's an opportunity that sort of follows suit with an FFA type of feel to it, right? It's
Yeah.
you're growing the leaders of your industry and you're growing the leaders of your sport, and I don't think that they shied away from the attention. They did a fantastic job showing up for us. They do a fantastic job with all of the younger generation that's looking up to them. They take time to talk to them in the pits. They take time to sign autographs. And I love the fact that every year we're giving two of those young guns an opportunity to be leaders among that group and a sounding board, and they brainstorm things with us. Something that came back from them was, maybe we do a coloring book for all of our fans, and they're working on that right now. Megan and I think it's it's Megan and I think Kaysen, I think, that are doing the leading this year. Two strong young guns, and we just love working with them, and we love being out at the polls. Anytime you can get my crew together and just talk tractor tires, we're happy to do it. And farmers love standing around talking about tires and talking about tractors. So it was kind of a match made in heaven, really.
And being around those kids, I mean, you can't help but get excited. They seem so excited to be a part of it. Do they not? I mean, it's like it's almost infectious to be around them.
It absolutely is. Yeah, I think, we work in a very competitive industry, and we play hard, right? We work hard, we play hard. And it's very fulfilling to have them come up with their energy. And just when you're like dragging from a really hectic week or, getting through a product launch, they just come up with this energy, and you bottle it up and sell it. And we just sort of feed off of it. And I think that's why we love being out with them so much at the events, is the energy they bring sort of refuels us to do what we do and realize that they are the leaders on their farms back home. And we have a really bright future with these kids. I'm so proud of every one of them. The ones that I've gotten to know individually have friended me on Facebook or have, come up to me at the shows or come up to my guys at the shows. It's just, they were very welcoming to us, and we can't imagine our summers without the Outlaw family at this point. So.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I tell you one thing that it did too, that we kind of weren't expecting, but it's been an unexpected surprise or unexpected benefit of it is, it has really, I mean, it's highlighting our young competitors and what they do for the sport, but the young ladies that are involved, I mean, they have really,
I've noticed that,
and it's really highlighted these young ladies, and they can drive, Kim. They can
yes,
drive.
They can. Yes, they can. There's a couple of them when we're out on the track, we have some conversations, and, I'm very open. I mean, I'm a minority at Titan as far as in a leadership role, right? A female, and Titan's working very hard to support me and to support other individuals, that want to take leadership positions. And I think these girls don't want to be treated differently because they're girls. They're drivers. And but they work hard, and they earn their keep, and they don't want anything handed to them. They want to show you guys that they can do anything you guys can do. And to see them just come out of some shells and really give you guys hell. I think they've proved themselves that they know how to drive, right? And I think that is very empowering. And I think these girls are going to change this industry. For the better, right? They're showing. It's awesome to see even young girls come up to them at like our pedal pole, in Iowa, and come up to them and want autographs and be like, I want to be like you. And
I love that.
You just don't think about what that does when a girl can see someone else doing it. All of a sudden they think, now I can do it, and I can do it bigger, or I can do it better, or I can do it faster, right? And that's how you guys have just grown the sport, is all the things that we're doing, with all the pullers, really. And I think being in the pits, there's times where guys will come up to me and ask me, where can I buy your product? Where can you get me in touch with the dealer? Having our product manager out at some of the polls and getting to talk to him, and our ag specialist, like we want to feel like you can come talk to us, that we're approachable. We're not just this big global corporate company. And I think it was a great first couple of years. And I can't wait to see what we get to do next.
Kim, you were talking about those long lines of kids at the pedal pool wanting to get autographs. I think Mike Idle was in that line too up there at Iowa State.
Everybody was in that line. I was in that line.
When I was 5 years old, I pulled in the Missouri State Fair pedal pull. They had regional qualifiers and everything. I was in the top 50 kids in the state or whatever. No, Kim, I like what you say about the ladies going out there and not just rolling over and saying, well, we can't hang with the big dogs, or, they're kicking butt. In the 4-1 class, in the limited pro stock class, and it's got 26 competitors for points this year. 3 of your top 10 drivers were female drivers, and 2 of those 3 were young guns. So these are not just, we're tagging along because dad or boyfriend or brother thinks it's fun. These are butt-kicking drivers. And then one of those 3 went on to represent us at the National Farm Machinery Show and sat in the top 3 circle for the better part of 8, 9, 10 hooks. The confidence that gives young women, young people, and then everything else that Titan Tires is doing and the Young Gun program, it's a win-win-win across the board.
I think, the other thing is it feeds into other parts of their lives, right? That confidence, and it builds them for other things outside of pulling. And I just think there's so many intrinsic benefits that we're experiencing with each other. We've had promoters, we've had grandfathers of young guns come up to us and say, I'm putting new tires on my tractor and I want nothing but Titan because of what you've done with the young guns. And I said, you don't have to do that. And he said, no, I want to. And I said, I just want you to know, thank you, right? We appreciate you. Mailed him a hat. And it just, again, you guys have just been so welcoming to us. It really feels like we're here to advance the sport and take care of our customers together. And it's been such a great time for us.
It feels like family, does it not? I mean, when you come to that local.
Yeah, it's so nuts. I feel like I was like the cousin that nobody knew about, at first. And then it was like, no, she's cool. That one's cool. She's okay. She's okay. But yeah, I think, it's a love of the sport, and that passion is not something that a puller puts into just pulling. I've had so many conversations about all the community support that these pullers provide back home. These are not just pullers. Again, these are leaders in the community. They're volunteers. They care a lot. They're very passionate about everything that they do in their lives. And that really feeds down to the next generation and kids who are thinking about maybe following in the family's footsteps, or maybe going out on a limb and doing this and it's never been done in their family. You don't just do that. You do that because you feel like this team is welcoming and this organization is welcoming. And I couldn't agree more. So it's just, we're so looking forward to this year. We've got some other good stuff coming.
Tell us about it. What do you got cooking? I've heard some rumblings and I've seen things, but tell us about it.
Well, the hats and the t-shirts seem to be huge. And my favorite thing about that is that kids are actually wearing them. Adults are actually wearing them. So I'm out at other farm shows. I'm like, hey, have you been to a poll? I love that. And they come up to us in the booth and say, hey, Outlawed and Titan, and they tell us their story about their farm and how long it's been in the family, or how long they've been pulling. And that's my favorite part. Absolutely my favorite part. So we've got all of that coming. I think some of our dealers have had a great time, and I think it's sort of feeding through the network. So we've got dealers already asking, is that going to be my event? Can I have that event? Wanting to be there. And then we're going to actually start to be in some attendance at the Heartland Division events. And we've got dealers asking about those. So it's just going to be an awesome summer, and I just can't wait for it.
So in 2023, this past season, you partnered with the Young Guns and donated checks to the FFA of each state that we pull in. I understand there's going to be some more donations this year, but going to reach out to some different groups here. What's going on there?
Yeah, so an idea that came up at the end of last year was, the FFA is fantastic, and so many of our pullers are community leaders or volunteers in FFA. But I had a couple of pullers come up and say, "What if we did something a little different?" And I said, "Okay, tell me, what's going on?" And they're like, "What if we visited a children's hospital?" And what inspired them was, as we all know, there is a football stadium that backs up right next to a cancer treatment center, and all those kids wave and all the fans wave, and that kind of inspired them to, maybe possibly visit a children's hospital or multiple and bring some tractors out and let these kids who, unfortunately, because of their illnesses, generally cannot leave the confines of that hospital. And I thought that was an incredibly selfless idea to try and bring, tractor pulling to maybe some kids that might be from rural America or maybe not, and introduce them to something they've never seen before. So we're going to be doing some donations to some of those organizations, and I think it's going to be really awesome as the details start to come together. So watch out for that.
My heart just melted. You take a little country boy or girl who's stuck up somewhere battling something pretty tough, and you bring them outside for a day and let them sit in the seat of a professional pulling vehicle. They're gonna be,
Goosebumps.
Watch out, Santa Claus. They just met a new favorite person. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna be in heaven for a month.
I'm thinking we might need to gift some Outlawed TV to some of those hospitals as well.
I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking the same.
I know some people.
I'm picturing little stuffed pulling tractors. Kim, I'm picturing stuffed pulling tractor toys.
I'm picturing little mini pedal pulls in the hallways, And,
that would be amazing. That would be amazing.
That's a great idea. That's rock star.
Yeah, I think, and I think because of our openness to do some of these things, I think the ideas just keep coming from pullers on how we can impact our viewers and we can impact our communities. So it's going to be awesome. So stay tuned for that.
I love it. Kudos to you, Kim. Kudos to Titan for listening, not only to us, but you're listening to the young guns, and you guys are putting it in motion. You're listening and making it happen. I love it.
Yeah.
Good job, young guns, taking the initiative and taking the role seriously too. And I see that a lot with these kids. They almost band together, those young guns, and wear it as a badge of honor and a badge of pride. And you can tell they really use it as a springboard to get to know each other. And they take that leadership and that stewardship, which you see in 4-H and FFA and tractor pulling and all this. And it sounds like they're doing their homework and they're coming up with, when you're hearing ideas from kids and, the VP of marketing is saying, let's roll with it. These kids are doing something pretty good.
Yeah, you also can't miss them in their flames, right? When they do band together, it's pretty easy. It's pretty easy to spot them in the crowd with their jerseys. So, yeah. But I just thank you so much for having me on tonight. We'll have lots of good news and lots of updates throughout the season, and watch out for all of us running around. Sometimes we have some of our crew that's never been to a tractor pull, so God bless the ops managers for keeping those guys alive. I really appreciate that. But yeah, it's going to be such an awesome summer. So appreciate any recognition you guys give to Titan. And when you see one of those staff members running around one of those events, any ideas, any feedback, anything you guys need, you just let us know.
We sure appreciate you, Kim. We appreciate everyone there at Titan Tire, and reach out if you need us to put anything out there. We can help spread it around any of these events that are coming up this summer with the Young Guns and Titan.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for taking the time out to talk to us a little bit tonight, and we'll see you soon. It'll be here before you know it.
Yep. Thank you.
Thanks, Kim. Kim with Titan Tire coming on tonight. I told her it'd be about 15 to 20 minutes, Mike. And yeah, she hit all the high points there. They've got some awesome stuff going on with the Young Guns.
Their product is really interesting and really intriguing too. And their little write-up, I was going to put you on the spot. I'm always challenging you. Do you remember all your scripts from all your sponsors? Can you hit us with the Titan tires right off the top of your head?
Man, I can't remember my
Titan
duels,
script, and man. That one's got.
I think I had a few Titan scripts actually. Maybe that's
Did ya?
why I can't. Yeah.
But it makes sense. So they're I mean, the whole idea, you basically take your traditional setup and you're replacing duels the way I understand it with like almost like a floating. You're distributing that weight footprint over a larger amount, so you're not sinking as much. It's interesting. And they're cool looking tires. I'll put it that way. You get 4 sets of Titans on a big, articulating tractor. It makes for a mean looking machine.
Yeah, and the big case they bring out, like at the Iowa State Fair, the demonstrator case there. That's an awesome. It has the Titan high flotation.
Is that black one? They did the black one for what, the 100th year or something like that. Case celebrated something historic this year and built that one, wasn't it?
Yeah, you're picking my brain a little bit.
I was thinking
that specific tractor, that they've had that out for years. They do that like every year where they have that demonstrator tractor. Case has the Black Knight, and yeah, that's an awesome tractor to look at. But huge thanks to Titan Tire. They also make Goodyear Farm Tires, sponsor of the Outlawed Young Guns. And I was being totally honest, Mike, when I said that other organizations took notice of that program.
I think they should. I think you almost have to, because honestly, and you've been around tractor pulling for a long time. I've been around tractor pulling my whole life, and you hear a lot of the blue bloods of the sport, and we hear it again and again. Well, today's youth isn't as interested, and we've got to get more young pullers. And it was one of the first things, honestly, that I noticed when I came and started spending time with the Outlaws. I said the young footprint here is noticeable, and the organization, the association, does a lot to invest back into those young guys. And so when Titan is literally creating this kind of sponsored young gun program, how many young guns are there? I heard it listed last year. There's a lot of them.
There was 36, I think, and I'm not sure. I don't have the list of their ages, but when they hit, I think 26 is when they fall off, and they just they become a regular outlaw,
Yeah, 16 to 25, I think, is what I was told, which is funny. So 16 to 20, I give Jamie Yonke a hard time when I saw her at the farm show and our paths crossed from time to time. I said, you're a young gun, but you're not a rookie. You can be a young gun for 9 or 10 years. You can definitely have quite a bit of experience and be a young gun, but not a rookie,
Yeah. Look at Lane Paulson last season.
Yeah.
How many hooks did he have under his belt in early July on the second night at Thunder in the Valley to win the limited pro stock class as a 16-year-old rookie young gun? I mean, that's pretty awesome. And these kids, I mean, they do their homework. I mean, at Wayne County Fair in Wayne, Nebraska, in the shootout, the Anderson Farm shootout, top 5 tractors in the shootout, 4 of the 5 were young guns. They went to that shootout. So
let's talk about that. Let's talk about that shootout for a second too, and just kind of continue. This is the Outlaw Show. We'll brag on the Outlaws a little bit. There are so many things that the Outlaws are doing right now, with the Young Gun program being at the top of them. And I'm on a couple of other tractor pulling shows and forums and chats, and I post a lot of questions on social media. And one of the biggest recurring phrases or wants that I hear is the bring back pull-offs. We want pull-offs. And so many drivers are like, that's just not always feasible. But the idea of a shootout, if I'm thinking of this correctly, Ron, is so smart, because this is like a predetermined, you bring back your top 5 in a specific class at the end of the night and then run them again. So your vehicles have had time, like let's say the 4-1 class is going to do a shootout, and you say the top 5, they go past 320 feet or something like that. They're going to come back in a shootout. It's not a pull-off, but it's basically a pull-off. But we're going to run it at the end of the show after you've had 4 classes to cool down and everything. That's the middle happy medium to me. Fans want pull-offs. Drivers don't want to hurt equipment. Schedule a predetermined, we're having a shootout such and such night. Keep that in mind. Set them up that way. Top 5 come back at the end of the night. That's an innovative idea. I think that's a winning idea.
I like the shootouts. You have to be careful, at what point in the season. Look at the week that you're scheduling that. Generally, it comes down to if the promoter wants to put up some extra dollars to do that. You have to dangle that carrot in front of the pullers.
Sure.
Simply because they don't want to. They're not going to do it for not having something extra, and there's nothing wrong with that. These pullers are pushing equipment to the absolute brink, and we're asking them to do it, 20 to 28 times a season, and most of this equipment was not designed to make this kind of horsepower.
Right.
These blocks, these components weren't built for that. So to ask them to do a pull off, and a pull off's it's not only that, but it's time. It's the time we have for a pull off. In the old days, we didn't have near as much equipment as what we do now out on the pulling track. So you had more time to have a pull off. Now we want to try to pack everything we can in a 2.5 to 3 hour show when everybody's still there watching. Because, after 2.5, 3 hours, people do start to filter out, I mean, you have families, the kids are getting tired, mama's getting tired. Your butt's starting to hurt sitting on, the bleachers for 2.5 hours. But the shootout, it also has marketing value. I like the shootout for that reason. Anderson Farms put up $3,000 in 2023 at the Wayne County Fair to have that limited pro shootout. Pullers were all about it. Hey, it's some extra money. It's a neat thing to have. They had it, and come down to it, the winner, Dave Novak, he didn't keep the money all to himself. He split it amongst all the competitors in the shootout, which I thought was super cool.
A classy, just what a classy move is that? That's, you said it earlier, it's family, outlaw. And that phrase gets thrown around a lot. Big corporations and companies like to use that. But there's something different about the Outlaw group where it really does feel like family. So, but it's
Anderson Farms. They put that up, and they're just huge fans, Mike. They're putting up $500 extra in it this year. I think I misquoted a couple weeks ago and said 5,000, but they're putting up 3,500. You
put another zero on there, and they got on the phone real fast. Said, "Hey, we're big fans, but careful, Ron."
I think Kevin corrected me quickly on that. Let me know. Roger really says, "Go ahead, Mike."
Well, I was gonna say, if you predetermine it too, it gives them time to, one night in the middle of the schedule, you can why not throw a little bragging rights on it, set them on kill, because we've talked about this before. Consistency wins points championships. Winning doesn't win points championships. Consistency does. But if you can all go out there in the pits and rub elbows one night and say, hey, tonight, we've got it turned up, and here's what it really can look like when we go all the way, do that for the shootout. Shootouts, when planned correctly and with the carrot dangled correctly, can be really cool.
Yeah, I like the shootouts, and throughout the season, if we can do one here, one there, be careful at what class you're doing it in on what particular week. It's one of the things we just have to look at in the schedule. You wouldn't want to do, a shootout with their hooking, 4 times that week or something. You get into mid-July to mid-August, and it's just absolutely crazy with the fair season and everything.
Yeah.
And the amount of hooks these guys have. So, and gals, I don't want to leave the ladies out there, but Roger Ruiz said the last Magnum, Case H Magnum built was black. So, I didn't highlight some of these comments while Kim was on. Connie Ruffcorn says thanks to Titan for all they do for the sport. Marty Samuelson is waiting on his coloring book out in Ravenna. Donnie Reeve from out in California. We got Callie watching.
I love it.
Donnie Reeve, of course, he'll be competing at the Pullers Championship.
Yep, I was going to say the California guys they made it in the 4-wheel drive truck class. Been making a lot of adjustments to come and play in our sand over here, or play in our clay, I should say. And that's going to be neat.
I offered my wrenching expertise to Donnie at the Pullers Championship. To help
You're going to be
I'm not sure how many
crew
folks
chief back there.
So
Ron Stone tuning in the pits.
Big thanks to everybody tuning in tonight. Tell us what you're thinking. What you have any questions about the upcoming season? You have any questions about Mike Idle's pedal pulling career? throw those questions out there.
It was over before it started. That's as far.
Oh wait, you said you were in the top 50 in Missouri. Now we want to hear more.
Yeah, this was it. And then my parents said, you know what, you might just want to talk about pulling instead of trying to drive one of these things. That's as far as it went. So.
Oh boy. If you had ever hooked to a sled, Mike, it literally is like a drug. You get hooked for sure.
I had a kid sitting in class. Yeah, I was covering for another teacher. I don't teach high school students very often. I teach primarily middle school. A kid was sitting in class, and he mentions he's buddies with a local puller, and he says, "Hey, do you know so and so, local puller?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I haven't met him personally, but he's local. He pulls with the Outlaws. I definitely know who he is." So this guy was just hooked. He wanted to know everything there was to know about pulling, and he asked me, he goes, "Well, how bad do you want to drive one?" And I said, "Buddy, there is no way." I said, "There's not a person out there crazy enough to say, hey, Mike, why don't you put down the microphone and step in the roll cage of one of ours?" I said, "I would wreck it, tear it up. You know, I'd need a fresh driver's suit when I was done." I said, "There is nobody wins. I will hang out in the crow's nest. I will watch them and gape at the amazingness, but you don't need to be putting me in the cock seat of any one of these."
Well, you know, I had a driver, a couple of years ago, that actually offered me seat time on a light limited pro, and I thought, well, I shouldn't be able to tear that up. So, you know, I tried to, but no, I'm kidding. But I used to pull trucks. I pulled four-wheel drive trucks, but there's nothing like I can't explain it when you feel the hook. You know, you feel the clunk of the hook dropping. You know, into the hole, and you roll the slack out of the chain and you feel that bump, and man, just everything about it, the whole process, you know, watching them clear the track, and you see the green flags coming down, and, you know, you bring the RPM up, and it's just every single piece of that, just thinking about it gives me chills.
I was gonna say, I get, to me as a fan, I can visualize everything you're saying because I've been to so many pulls and I just enjoy it so much, and I'm getting goosebumps listening to you describe it. I know it. We've got pulling fever, something awful, Ron. We need this April to hurry up and get out of the way. Well, I like Robert Miner's question down here. He's talking about longest distance. Is this just at Wisner, Robert, or longest distance anywhere?
Yeah, I don't know on that. I mean, it would have to be in the 400s, I'm sure.
Well, Matt Goodwin pulled like 410 there this last year, and then 2022, it wasn't Haley's comment. It was Brian Bowles in what's his Ford New Holland down there out of Missouri. He pulled way out there. That's one of those I could tell you if you didn't ask me, you know.
Yeah, that's why I'm drawing a blank. You know, I don't know. I know
I always want to call it the apparatus, but it's not the apparatus. That's another one of those funky Fords out there. But he went like 380 or 390 or something like that at Wisner. But then, of course, Corey Schluter put a 420 spot. I was watching him pull in Dubuque, Iowa on Outlaw Pulling.tv a couple of years, 2021, right after COVID.
There you go.
Alter Ego. Thank you, Cole. Perfect. But yeah, it went like 390 at Wisner 2022. In 2021, they had some of those light modifieds, single engine mods that went over 400 feet at Dubuque, Iowa. Those were some big pulls. Outlaw has never been one that's been shy of letting them get out and run. You know, you're gonna see some big distances in Outlaw. Fans like it.
We can safely do so, and there's not a rule in that particular class against it. I mean, you know, some classes have a rule. You reset the sled if the first one or two go past a certain point. But as long as there's no rule for it, as long as it's safely able to be done, yeah, I mean, you know, some will argue that 300 foot is a full pull, you know, because that's what it always was in the day. But, you know, things have changed, you know, with the not being able to do pull-offs and things like that. So, you know, it is what it is, and the crowds love it.
They go
comes out and blows it out
nuts. They go nuts, and you know, the track, I've heard from some pullers say we're putting butts in seats. We're entertainers is what we're doing. And if it sells tickets, it is what it is. And I was thinking about this too with the race sleds. You really have to think about this concept of the race sled. The first 50 feet is almost given to the puller. That first 50 feet to build the momentum, and the pan's not on the ground yet. And, there's not a lot happening that. So if you're going to give them the first 50 feet, you've got to add 50 feet somewhere. So 300 doesn't really exist in my mind anymore. 350 is the new 300 to me. And if you routinely see pullers going 330, well, that's like watching a pull back in 1995 and the winner went 280, which wouldn't shock you back then. So if 330 wins a pull now and you're thinking 350 is the new 300, that's great. If he goes past 350, full pull. If he goes 400 feet, well, tip your cap that they built a track that big. Good for that fair board for having a track that was that long, and why not use it? We're there to use it, so we'll use all their track.
Yeah, a lot about the entire run can be determined in that first 50 feet.
Mm-hmm.
I would argue that the pull in Louisville a couple of weeks ago, the Mac Trailer Winter Nationals, I was announcing with Jason there with the Full Pull Live, and especially I think every class, but especially the mini rod class, the pro stock class, I mean, the first 15 feet was extremely crucial on how they launched those tractors. It made or break. It made the run or it broke the run right in that first 15 feet or so. If you were to go back and watch that, you'll see it. And I was studying it the whole night, and it's like, wow, it's going to take somebody that's been doing their homework, watching these other tractors, going before them and knowing what to do and what not to do. And I knew in my mind what I would do if I was a puller. Not saying I'm an expert puller or anything, but it looked so obvious after watching a few of them go what was going to work and what wasn't going to work as far as the launch. So yeah, that's the one thing about pulling. It's so cool. I mean, the tracks, every track is different. And you talk about track lengths, of course, an indoor pull, there's a little less room for error too in that launch, because that sled is going to get heavier a lot faster, in 250 feet than it would in 300 plus feet. So there's all kind of variables, and you've got guys that go out there and study the track, and there's so many variables, and there's so many guys that just watch what's happening, and that's how you win pulls. You got to keep your eye on the ball and see those changing track conditions and things. But yeah, we've got pulling fever. I'm excited for the season.
I know. I say it's pretty obvious.
It should be May, dang it, or June.
It's a big reason I'm such a huge fan of, and you can maybe speak about this a little bit because you've been there, of 4-wheel drive truck pulling, because the whole shot and the launch is so important. But in some classes, it feels like, especially with a lot of weight and a lot of big back tires, you can kind of, left foot up, right hand down, kind of sidestep the clutch and get into it pretty early. How many 4-wheel drive trucks have we seen over the years that are not full throttle? They're not really finished with the launch, if you want to call it that, at 175 feet. And that run is really, you want to talk about determining things in the first 100 feet or so with your clutch work and your throttle work. And then have you been able to build the speed and momentum by 175, by 200, and who's going to win that class just based on the speed and the throttle control they have at about the 200-foot mark. You don't just, it's tricky. It looks like coming out of the hole with a 4-wheel drive vehicle is so much trickier than the 2-wheel drive vehicles.
If they're not at full throttle by 175, they're going to lose. I promise you. Probably the trickiest 4-wheel drive track that I've seen, and it may not have been the track itself, but just everything combined, was at Rock Valley last year on Saturday night. That near track, the modified 4-wheel drives. So many of them could not, and that's the key is get your clutch fully engaged and being hooked up and at full throttle as soon as possible without upsetting the truck and making a bounce on a 4-wheel drive. And there's a fine line between all that I just said, because if it hooks up right away and you jam the throttle and dump the clutch, it's going to bounce, or it's going to blow the tires away. So trying to figure that out. Yeah. And on that track, more trucks than not developed a terrible bounce. And could not get rid of that bounce. A few of them was able, to break the tires loose and not bounce. But yeah, that's the enemy of the 4-wheel drive truck, is the dreaded bounce.
It got to the point in that session Saturday night at Rock Valley where you could almost see the goal on the back half of the truck class was they quit trying to win. And they basically said, we've got to get past the bounce, the 150, whatever was in that track. We just got to go earn some points. If we can just get on the 200-foot side and on the other side, like, we're going to get the points, but we're no longer trying to be the winner in this thing. We're just trying to endure that storm, because if not, we're going to end up, 24th and be way out of the points here. So, but the cream, some of the driving jobs some of the guys did that night was really made you tip your cap. Claypool's did an amazing job. I always try to show them some love being right here in Macon County, but boy, they drove right through that really smoothly. The driving job some people did that night was really impressive.
Marty Samuelson says, where is the limit on distances they can pull? If you pull 400 plus per minute, you're going to be, that it would be determined specifically in most classes for what's safe would be determined by the lead track official. Some classes do have rules. I know the 2-wheel drives used to have a 340 rule. The first puller, if it went past 340, they reset the sled, restarted the class. I think they did away with that rule in November at the meeting, but it's all about safety.
Definitely.
We'll let them run if they can safely do so. Yeah.
So. And I'm not saying that we should make it our goal to pull 400 feet. 400 feet still, there's a fine line there. Some people are like, oh my gosh, he went 400. Some people think that's kind of like scoring 100 points in a high school basketball game. Is that crossing some sort of unwritten rule? If the track is there and if the track is prepped and if it's available, let them run. If you're confined by other circumstances, there's an NTPA track I went and saw as a competitor. It's down in Brandenburg, Kentucky. And it literally 315 feet physical, actual total distance. There's a grass hill. The track at the final 20 feet runs uphill. The clay of it does. So you got to just, work with what's available there. So, but you go somewhere like Wisner, that Wisner track feels like that thing's a half a mile long. That feels like that goes on for forever.
Yeah, they were talking about long pulls there. I keep thinking about a pull a couple of years ago, Chris Mintz in the light modifieds. It seemed like he was out there in that 400-foot range. He swept the weekend in that light mod class. So that's one we'll have to look up, Mike, is to figure out that question, who's went the furthest at Wisner.
Do some research. That'd be neat.
Donnie Reeve checking in again. Good to have him watching the show. Hello from Paloma, California. Looking forward to pulling with you fine folks at the Outlaws in Rock Valley, Iowa this year. We're going to hold you to that, Donnie. We want to see you out there. Donnie's got some nice equipment. Granted, they are Fords, but we won't hold that against him. No, I'm kidding. I like to give the Ford guys a hard time.
There's a lot of crossover pullers coming to Rock Valley. I've already seen some other pullers from other organizations filling out their schedules. You're seeing that's a pull, man. That's a heck of a pull. And one of the best things, you have to tip your cap to the state of Iowa, because they worked together and kind of did this. And I know there's whoever makes laws in Iowa or however this works, but Rockwell, Iowa and Rock Valley, Iowa, as if the names weren't confusing enough, two big pulls used to be on the same weekend. Right. And then they purposefully reconfigured that so people could go to both of them. But I've seen a lot of other, we saw it last year, people crossing over from different organizations. I think the Ridge Runner Light Superstock released their schedule, and they said they will be at Rock Valley this year. Build that thing up. That's a pull. That's when ESPN came to, wasn't it?
Rock Valley. Yeah.
Yeah.
We did last year. And I think that's happening again. Not 100% sure, but I think we're doing that again this year with ESPN, the ESPN Ocho, they call it. But yeah, there's outlaw pulls that have the name is out there. People want to go. Pullers want to put those pulls on their bucket list, say they went. What puller doesn't want to say they pulled at Bowling Green? What puller, doesn't want to say they pulled at Toma, Wisconsin? You know what I mean? But Rock Valley, Iowa has the same that same draw. They want to say, hey, I pulled at Rock Valley.
I
pulled at Thunder by the river,
The Thunder by the Liver.
Thunder by the Liver, yeah.
Did we hear, and maybe it was discussed on this show, and I hope it wasn't discussed in private, and if it was, and I'm about to stick my foot in my mouth, but whatever, we'll delete this part later or something, was Bowling Green, it's not accepting day hooks this year. Is that correct? Is that something that's been floated
I
around?
heard that, yeah, and I've never been to Bowling Green. I grew up in Ohio. Bowling Green was at the other end of the state. I pretty much, until I was a teenager, stayed in the southern half of Ohio and went to polls that, I was able to go to as a kid, wherever Dad would drive me, So
you were in Kentucky North.
I lived in Kentucky for a couple of years. Yeah, basically. Southern Ohio, Northern Kentucky. Yep. Yeah. But when I got my driver's license, I started venturing up north, went to the Ohio State Fair, went to Fort Recovery, went to some state polls, never went to Bowling Green. But I've heard stories, of 75 two-wheel drives in one class, and it's like, I'm not trying to offend anyone, but you get up over, 25 or so in a class, to the normal spectator, they've already seen pretty much everything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But
it would be if Bowling Green, and like you're saying, if that's the decision they made, that's probably not a bad decision, on their part. But with Wisner being that same weekend, it's funny, with Rock Valley and Rockwell used to be on the same weekend. Well, Wisner and Bowling Green are on the same weekend. And if they're not taking day hooks, day passes, what that means, you're not a regional national pre-commit, or you're not a grand national pre-commit, or whatever, you call your sanctioning organizations. You can't just show up and pull. Wisner, that could send a lot of people who are like, well, where do we pull this weekend? Might come and decide to pull at Thunder by the River.
Possibility.
It'd be interesting to see how those dynamics played out. That being said, how many hooks the Thunder by the River had Saturday evening session last year? Over 200. That's the biggest. Bowling Green clocks in at like 120 on any given session. And I know Thunder by the River was over 200. So it's not like you're not already getting your money's worth there. So
it was about 7-hour show on Saturday night.
Right at 7. I remember you announcing that. I remember sitting right under the crow's nest, and you literally, because it went from about 4 to 11, and I think you said something about it being a marathon. That you were going to go get a glass of water. But 200, and you announced it at like 202, 212. It was over 200.
And here's something that blew me away at Wisner was the 4-wheel drive class. 28 4-wheel drives. That's
loved every one of them.
Woodwork last year.
That would be, so to what you're saying, and to put it in perspective, 75, literally 75 two-wheel drives have hooked at Bowling Green. 75 super farms have hooked at Bowling Green. When I was there in 2018, there were right at 60 mini rods. 28 is the absolute cutoff. You can still have a great class of trucks. I don't know that I would want to go a nickel more than 28. I really don't know that I would. That being said, don't make me eat my words. If we pull 33 pullers at Wisner or Rock Valley this year, love it. But from a casual fan's perspective, 28 is going to be right at the tippy top of what you're going to look for a show.
When you go to outlaw pulls, though, I mean, the classes you expect big number. You expect them in light limited pro. You expect, because there's so many of those. There were 17 light limited pros. I mean, even let's say limited pro, there were 23.
You'll see 4-1's a big class, especially, in Missouri, Wisconsin, Nebraska, Iowa. There's a lot of those, but 23s, I'm very comfortable with that as a number. 23 is, that you can have a great show with 23 4-1s any day of the week.
But the largest class was modified 4-wheel drive. It simply wasn't expected. Robert Miner says it was hot. Yes, it was.
Yeah.
It was understatement of the year.
Probably the hottest single day I've ever experienced. Just put it.
We went from winter weather in July on Friday night at Thunder in the Valley to I'm not going to say desert-like weather, more like jungle-like weather at Thunder by the River in August, on Saturday night, which was crazy because the humidity was insane.
It was so hot, even the Texas guys were admitting it was hot. They took their jackets off.
No doubt. No doubt. Well, Mike, it's 8:05. That's about what time we got started after you realized that I hadn't hit the go live button. So
better than, it is what it is. It's a thing. It's at this point, we need to call it like Outlawed Live exclusive, and you pay isn't that what all these streaming services are doing now? You got to pay like the premium to get the behind the scenes content. So, subscribe to Outlawed Live Plus and get the 5 minutes before we remember to hit the go live button.
Yeah, at least we don't have commercials. Everything's got commercials.
That's true. Oh man.
So thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you to Kim Bacardi from Titan Tire for coming on as well. Thank you, Mike, for making time for the show again tonight. And let's start highlighting this weekly series you're running. It's called When the Smoke Clears, right?
When the Smoke Clears. Yep. And I think right here on Outlawed Live would be a really solid platform to launch that. We'll get with the production crew, and we'll get the neat little, it's almost like a hero card that kind of inspires it. So we'll call it a hero card until we come up with a better term. Yeah, we'll debut, let's count on Ron. We'll debut the Behind the Smoke, but not Behind the Smoke, but When the Smoke Clears. Can't even remember my own catchphrase. When the Smoke Clears, and we'll put the little placard up there, and we'll give you a rundown of each week's featured driver.
Cole Lundahl saying Bobby Jones showing up at Wisner was a big surprise. Hoping for more surprises. I'll do you one even better. In 2020, when a certain four-wheel drive pickup showed up from Wasion, Ohio at Thunder in the Valley. That was
at Rock Valley. I watched that one on a certain media platform, but I was able to watch that one. Yeah, and when they pulled, however, I'm thinking of Jim Bosch. Jim Bosch might have pulled at Dubuque, which surprised me a little bit. But yeah, when the red truck out of Ohio showed up at the Outlaw Pull, I said, "Boys, we got something neat here."
Yeah, that was super cool. Russ Dossel says the longest pull he thinks was a semi from Minnesota. So very possible. Very possible.
Those semis will get out there.
Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Kim Bacardi from Titan Tire. Thank you all for tuning in and watching. Join us next Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Central Time for another edition of Outlaw Live. Good night, everybody.
Take care.
Got to get past 312.89 to take out the points leader. George Beyer sitting in the top spot. Here comes Jamie Yankee. Moving on. Oh, Mound City, Kansas, how about a nice hook for Jamie Yankee? Wasn't enough to get past the John Deere. Had to beat 312.89. The young lady goes 319.56 for the lead. Jump around. Jump around. Jump around. Folks, if you are in this crowd watching this pull tonight, if you're watching on TV, on Outlaw Pulling TV, you are watching big-time pulling right now here in Mound City, Kansas. We are not joking around. They are putting on a show right now. Jamie.